I think another reason why so many divorces are happening and so many women are just not dating men is because they're bored. So bored. They're bored to death and they don't want to be bored with a partner. Now, I have talked about this a lot in various ways. And one of the things that I realized right away when I was in the outdoor world and hung out with climbers and, rafting as a raft guide and all that stuff is they talked about gear all the time. And I was so bored. I was like, how many hours can we talk about black diamond cams and ropes and all this crap? I don't, or climbs, or like, I get it. You talking about that like a little bit or some, but like all the time. I was so bored. And I want to share a few stories here to make my point. One of them is actually from one of my mutuals, and she can't tell this story herself because then you know who her daughter was, and she wanted to share this story, but she wanted to be anonymous. So I'm going to share that in a second. But I also want to share that, I have children in my life. I have a niece and a nephew here. I have dog sitters. And one of my favorite teenage girl, like, dog sitters, she gives me so much hope. So much hope. She is so smart. She is so... like I'm like, wow, we're gonna be okay. She's one of those kind of kids where you're like, wow, I wish I had her confidence. I wish. Anyway, she started dating somebody, and her first boyfriend, and I don't know, she's like 13 or 14, and she broke up with him after a couple months. Why? Because she was bored. That's it. She was bored. She couldn't believe how boring he was. She literally said, I don't want to be his mom, because he didn't have any friends. He stayed in his room. He plays video games. Like, this man is literally going to be an incel. He didn't know his sister's birthdays. When she asked, she couldn't believe that when she asked him when his sister's birthdays were, he couldn't remember. He had to think about it. He didn't know. Now, they're pretty tight here in France, okay? Family community is the center of society here. I mean, not all families or whatever, but in general, that's mentality. So if you don't know your sibling's birthday, anyway, no matter what culture you're in, but like, especially here, this teenage boy is already acting like so many grown men do. Has no hobbies other than ones that involve consuming things alone that are passive rather than active. Has no friends, doesn't make an effort to make friends, and doesn't listen to women or other girls, and doesn't care, but wants a girlfriend. He couldn't believe that she was breaking up with him. And she basically said she's bored. She doesn't want to be his mother because he doesn't seem to know how to like do stuff. And she also said that he was just so passive. He wasn't like ever asking, like he had no ideas about what to do. And she was like, what are we doing? Like, she is such an act. She has so many friends. She's so busy. She does so many hobbies. She's super smart. Yeah, I was like, I'm really proud of you. And she was like, oh, like, I didn't realize that like that would mean anything to her. But I was like, look, just so you know, a lot of times they're not much different when they're adults. So good for you for recognizing this right away and realizing that he's not actually bringing anything to your life, and you're actually losing time and energy investing in this kid who doesn't care about really anything. And you're fun. I wouldn't want to be with a boring dude either. So that's one story. That gave me so much hope. I'm like, okay, girls are going to be okay. Not all, obviously. But in terms of like, I love that, because when I was her age, I probably would have kept dating him, because of my conditioning and, some daddy issues and whatever. And anyway, so that's one story. So let me share you another one really quick. And then I want to make a bigger point about this society problem. Okay, I'm going to read this, y'all. I'm going to use my perimenopause glasses here. Okay, she's talking about her daughter. He's 23, she's 22. She made him dinner at her place the other night, first time. In the middle of eating, he starts talking about a card game he wants to play with her. She says, I have never played. So he pulls out his phone, pulls up Wikipedia, and starts explaining step by step all the directions. She's looking at him with a completely blank face. He goes on for about 10 minutes till she says, I'm sorry, I can't even pretend to be interested in. Yes. I worked all day and made this dinner. I'm too tired to pretend like you aren't boring me to death. Ah! I love this so much. It sounds mean, but I swear to God, the less we pretend that everything that men say is so interesting, and just sit there and are like, that's emotional labor, by the way. Rose Hackman's book, Emotional Labor, read it if you haven't. It's a great book. And it really helped me see all the ways that I try to make men comfortable constantly, right? Like, this isn't just a gender thing, okay? Emotional labor is something that the people who are oppressed, whatever demographic that is, tend to have to do a lot of emotional labor to comfort the people with power. So as a white person, I recognize a lot of people are doing unnecessary emotional labor around me because of the way that society is set up. And what happens when white people, especially white women, don't feel comfortable, right? So this is how women have been conditioned to deal with men. It's like, like, don't want them to feel uncomfortable. Sometimes it's because they can be dangerous. Sometimes it's all these other reasons. Sometimes we just don't want them to feel shame, because then that shame is going to become our problem. Sometimes because we're empathetic and we don't want them to feel bad. We don't want them to know that what they're saying is boring us to death. Right? Like, we don't want, it's like we feel bad. But at the same time, we self-abandon all this. I'm not saying just be a jerk all the time and just be so blunt and rude. I'm not saying that. There is obviously nuance to this conversation. But this is what happens. And at 22, she already sees that, yeah, if you don't like speak up, these men will expect you to sit there and listen to them go on and on and on about the dumbest crap that we don't care about. And because they haven't been socialized to be as empathetic or use emotional intelligence and read the room and be aware and have their thermometer up the butt of everyone around them all the time, unless they're a part of a marginalized group. But this is like really big with the white men, right? Cishet white men especially, is they'll just like either ignore or not notice very big clues, like checking our phone and just being like, they just keep, and I'm not saying that women don't do this. Of course we do. Of course, it's been, and I'm somebody who also just goes on and on and on and on and on because I get stuck in a loop. So I'm guilty of this sometimes. Okay, just saying that, right? But I am saying, just ask women who've been married, especially to men who don't understand how self-absorbed they have been taught to be, how they don't care about the experience of women in general. So they just talk because they want to talk, because they're interested in it. Don't even notice or care about the impact of boring someone to death who's clearly not interested. So I love this. I love this. I love this. Especially because she worked all day and cooked him dinner. And then he's like, basically, he could just be talking to a wall, right? Like, she might as well not exist, And I experienced this early on as a child with my dad. I'm like, who is he talking to? Like, if I wasn't here and I just put like a blow-up doll here and put like, my clothes on it, he probably wouldn't notice, because he is not talking with someone, he's talking at someone. And I cannot tell you how common this is in relationships with men, not just marriages, but friendships with men, work relationships with men, just in everyday encounters with men. They don't care. Sometimes they just want to hear themselves talk. Sometimes they just assume that you care about what they care about, because why wouldn't you? Everything that they care about is really important, and what you care about is not as important, And it's not even malicious. It is just this lack of awareness and lack of thoughtfulness. And I love that she's like, yeah, sorry, bro, but like, I don't want to talk about this. This is boring me. So my mutual goes on to say, I cannot tell you, hold on, I can't. How I, all caps, suffered dying of boredom with men throughout my life. Feigned interest could be my drag name. To me, this is the real step. Sure, we go on and on online about who pays and low effort dates, but calling a man out when he is being boring, calling out the energy it takes to pretend to be interested. I mean, some would consider it rude, but isn't that the thing? Is it? He said it and made him laugh. But more importantly, he stopped trying to teach her cribbage via Wikipedia. And see, that right there is a great test. And as anybody who's been going out on dates, when I was on my little Tinder benders and going on all these dates, I just remember after so many being like, why did I waste my time? Either I did a one-woman show because this man wouldn't ask any question, or I listened to him drone on endlessly about boring stuff. I mean, honestly, I learned a lot about men during those dates because I had also learned a lot about men from working with them for so long. I worked in mostly male-dominated industry, the film industry, comedy, the outdoor adventure worlds, and I was also a tomboy. I love hanging out with men. I really do, but the ones with like zero emotional intelligence or not working on that are so boring. And a lot of men will not do the work of learning how to read the room and care about how their impact on women at all. They just come into the room and just blah, 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 right? And then get mad if we are not like, we don't take their bid, right? And you hear this all the time, like, you know, when we don't have to listen to everything they say, every thought. And I swear to God, like I said before, the way that I realized that I needed, you know, to stop hanging out with my dad when he was drunk, for instance, because letting him just go on and on and on about how his daddy didn't love him and how much pain that's caused him and watch him cry. It was literally like he was reading a script. He was just doing this thing and I might as well not have been there. And it is so lonely to feel invisible. It is so, that is why when we talk about male crisis, whatever, I don't care about that. It's not even a real thing, okay? It is a male entitlement crisis, a male audacity crisis. It is a male consequence crisis. It is a male refusal to emotionally grow and have empathy and thoughtfulness and see women as humans. And so you think they're lonely? Try being alone. Okay, try being in a relationship with someone who looks right past you, who talks at you, who you might as well not even be in the room with them because they don't listen, they don't care, they don't ask questions, like they don't engage, they don't talk to you or with you, they talk at you. And I know there's like neurodivergence and all kinds of other things that come into play here. I'm neurodivergent too, I get it. And again, I'm not saying this is just men do this, but I'm saying the entitlement and selfishness piece that plays into the people with power, and in this instance, men, especially men who date women, cishet men particularly, is they are missing the humanizing piece of giving a crap about the other person, right? And not even noticing or caring if that person is even into this conversation. And it plays out in bed. It plays out in every area. So I love that this 22-year-old girl said this, and I love that he laughed. That is it. That's a green flag. I don't even like to talk about green flags because a green flag can become a red flag, and green flag, like, whatever. But that is it. Like, if you call someone out like that, very, like, funny or, whatever, in a, like, thoughtful, funny, or whatever way, and they don't be like, and are like, yeah, okay, this is kind of ridiculous. That is a man who can take feedback. That is a man who is like listening to you and can and won't get in his ego and defensiveness and shame spiral and shut you down. So I love that. I love that she did it, and I love that he received it well. And by the way, if you're new here, wrote the article, Men Have No Friends and Women Bear the Burden. And this is exactly one of the things I was talking about. Men, this is why men don't have close friends, because they even talk to men this way. Like, they listen to men more, but they don't oftentimes talk about anything really deep. They talk about sports, they talk about gear, and then when one of them has cancer or has to move or has the death of a parent or a loved one or whatever, those men don't show up because they don't even know what's happening in his life, because they are going to women for all that emotional labor and empathy. So anyway, please join my Patreon if you're new here. That's how it pays the bills. Thank you, Patreon people. You are why I'm able to do this and actually not burn out. Thank you so much. I do watch parties, lives, share my personal stories over there that I don't want to share for the general public, and travel stuff, whatever. Go check it out. There's links in the all over the place. But I want to get into this column, and this is for the Atlantic, and it's actually like Dear James or something, so it's writing into a dude. And I usually don't listen to men, and if I remember correctly, this was pretty good, but also a woman would have responded differently, because a lot of times men just cannot see through their own centeredness, right? But this was so accurate. With few exceptions, my male friends seem incapable of having a balanced one-on-one social conversation with me. I like these guys very much and have known them for years. They're the husbands of my closest friends. But after a perfunctory, how are you, or such rote inquiry, why such big language? I feel so dumb when I read all these big words. They're off and running. I'm deluged with their reports of troublesome health problems, recent and inviolable travels, distressing interpersonal, professional, or personal dilemmas, upsetting political matter. The reader goes on. Some of these topics interest me, so I'm willing to be a welcome listener. Disclaimer, I'm a psychotherapist. Bang! When it gets to be too much, I occasionally try to steer the conversation towards me, but this suffices only momentarily, and soon we're back at their me-ism. I have no interest in confronting them and suggesting that they work through what I deem to be mostly their problem. The reader writes, I'm very intrigued by the possibility that you, obviously a liver of examined life, may have some explanation for this phenomenon. Do you? Now, this person doesn't sign a name, so I don't know if this is a dude or a woman writing this. I kind of just assumed it's a woman, unless y'all caught something I didn't, because this is what men do to women constantly and what women complain of constantly. But it could be a man, they could be non-binary. I don't know. They don't say. All right, so let's get into it. Dear reader, men talk over, talk past, talk through women. It's true. Across it, I'm already a little, I feel like I'm going to be really annoyed. I don't remember what he said, but preparing myself. Across centuries of sonic warfare, we have used chauvinist bass. I feel so dumb when I read The Atlantic, y'all. Patriarchal booming, and crude shifts in tempo to seize and hold the floor. Oh my God. Also, long stories, which are their own form of conversational oppression. But there's no monopoly on self-involvement in my experience. Yeah, we know. Please don't do not all men here. Women do it too. I've been what? Oh my God. I'm too dumb for this publication. Solipsistically droned at by persons of all genders and none. People think I'm a good listener, but I'm really not. What I'm actually doing while they're blathering is listening to myself, attending closely, that is, to my own reactions, positive or negative, and planning my eventual, if they ever stop bloody talking, response. You, though, are a therapist. Okay, first of all, before I even go on to that, wow, okay, sounds like a man. I mean, I know that a lot of people do this, but like, you though are a therapist and listening is your business, and consciously or not, these men are taking advantage of this. They're getting your expertise for free. Okay, I don't disagree with that, but it goes deeper than that, bro. There, no doubt you ask them good questions and keep it flowing nicely, and they probably come away from the encounters feeling soulful and enriched, while you feel baffled and depleted. So be less of a therapist is my suggestion. Be a worse listener, a coarser and more rhythmless and interlocutor. I've never seen this word before. Interlocutor? Okay, I don't know if I'm going to read The Atlantic anymore out loud. Already insecure about my French. Now I'm insecure about my English. Invert your training. I'm so pissed at this response right now. Like, first of all, maybe they're doing it because she's a therapist, and I'm assuming she's a woman. She might not be. Could be a man. Could be non-binary. But men do this to all of us. And I've talked about this a lot. If you've been following me for a while, you know. When I was hooking up with dudes on one-night stands, even, I had to stop having one-night stands, which otherwise was having fun because I got really good at vetting and I knew how to get center my pleasure and all that stuff. But it was them making me their therapist. Man, I'll be sitting on a bench in public and a man will come up and just start blah, right? But the dudes I hook up with, who I will probably never see again, may not even remember their name because it's just so casual and I'm just was having fun, would tell me about their mom attempting unaliving herself. They would tell me about their So many problems I did not want to know about. And having interviewed a lot of schmegs workers for some of the work that I've reported stories I've done, they talk about how many men will go to them with emotional labor and turn them into a therapist and won't even really be there for physical stuff sometimes because they, just literally one said that he got diagnosed with brain cancer and went straight to a schmegs worker to process it. So, bro, you don't know men well enough, or you don't experience men the way so many women experience men, is that they turn us into their therapist. So it's not because she's a therapist that they're doing it. They do this. And I say this as someone who has been in male-dominated industries for a long time, been shared tents with these men who will not open up to any other people. And all of a sudden, I know all their problems, who will ask me for advice on that, who will, or like my dad, when I'm a literal child and he's talking at me or just wants someone to bear witness to his pain, but doesn't want real help with it because that would require money, accountability, changing actions, really having to do deep inner work, which is a lot of time, money, and it's ego crushing in a good way, right? No, just blah, 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 blah to his own child. So you're so off base on this, and I don't disagree with some of this, but it's not because she's a therapist. I'm imagining it's way worse because she's a therapist. Again, I'm assuming that this is one, but men, we know men will also offload anything onto people that they think they are entitled to. My husband works in a place where men, because they will come in in a position of power and they don't want to do stuff. And because they have power over him, they want him to do everything for them, even things that's literally not his job, because men just offload labor on whoever they have power over, but they always have power over women. And systemically and collectively, even though in any scenario that could not be the case, obviously. This is why I have a hard time with male columnists who try to talk about, you don't understand men well enough, bro. I know men who are not columnists who would have not responded this way because they have listened to women enough and have really done soul searching enough to see what they do, and they know that men do this to women, whether they're therapists or not. So, sorry, bro. I've liked some of his responses to some things, but really missed it on this one. And now he's asking her to change. Do all this to change them. Do all this to make them do this stuff. Well, this is a lot of work. Be a worse listener. I'm not saying this isn't a suggestion and maybe it wouldn't work, but this is a lot of stuff she's got to do. I think she should follow the example of the 22-year-old in the beginning of this video who was like, can we not? You're kind of boring me. Or, hey, bro, did you even ask me a question? I have actually learned how to have healthier conversations, how to have healthier relationships because people who were better at it corrected me, and then I was like, oh wow, and I took that feedback and I changed and was very grateful that they pointed that out. Liz has taught me stuff about this and I was like, oh my God, I hadn't even thought about that, and then I changed my behavior based on that feedback. But this is just a whole lot of tap dancing and a lot. This is too much. This is too much. You're asking her to do way too much. Do it the 22-year-old and say, you're boring me. Can you act bro, I don't want to talk about this. Hey, next time we chat, will you ask about me and listen and ask follow-up questions? Or just stop being alone with them. I don't know, but this is a very big problem. And this is a very simple solution. It also is putting the work on women to fix men without fully understanding the real problem is male entitlement to our time, emotional labor, our energy, our knowledge, our wisdom. And then at the end of the day, they don't even listen to it anyway half the time. They just want to dump stuff. They just want, like I said, a lot of men just want a dog. Talk to your dog, bro. Have your dog watch TV with you. Eat with your dog, because that's about as much interaction or like really give and take and depth that you're going to go. Look at this. Fidget, sigh, check your phone, laugh at the wrong, you sound super manipulative, bro. Laugh at the wrong thing. Launch your own anecdote, entirely unrelated. Belch. Throw these men off their hobby horse, off the tracks of their discourse. They might even thank you for it. Oh, yeah, they're definitely not going to do that. Do you know men? I don't think you do. Anything but be direct. Anything but hurt their feelings a little bit. Anything but give them helpful feedback, which also is a gift in and of itself that some might appreciate, but others may not at all and may punish her for doing it. All this, no thanks, bro. Is that what you do? Seems like that's what you do. And also what works for men between men is not necessarily going to work men between women, because men, if they don't see us as fully human and having our own right to exist and, not owing them things and feeling entitled, they're going to react differently when we do this stuff. Like, bro, you're so off on this one. And that's it. Et voila. Yeah, okay, that's terrible advice. Let's follow the lead of the teenager that I mentioned and the 22-year-old, not James. Anyway, let me know what y'all think. I have a column that's coming soon. I'm working with somebody to help me figure out how to do that. Because I get so annoyed with some of the columnists. Although, dear Carolyn does a pretty good job. I usually agree with her. Anyway, follow me on Patreon if you can afford to, or even if you can't, there's a free tier just to keep up with my work. And let me know what you think. And let me know if you heard that comment song. And thank you again, Patreon people. You are why I'm able to do this. Thank you. Mayday, mayday, mayday in France. It's definitely not a vacation. Burning stuff and marching. Trash can burning everywhere. Graffiti, graffiti, reminding the rich people. Hey, yo, we're here. Mayday, mayday in France. Don't fuck with the friends. No, mayday, burning stuff. Mayday, mayday, and this smoky stuff, it hurts your lungs, and then so does tear gas, which they also did to us. And just to remind them, this says we kill the kings for less than this. Reminder, don't fuck with the workers here in France. Mayday, mayday in France, what a fun day. I love these earrings that my friend was wearing. You see? Join my Patreon to hear more about this. Et voila!